Hello everyone, David Skinner here from MassResistance-UK, how to make our nation marriage, family and children friendly. Now, I have a confession to make and probably ought to hand myself into the police straight away. You see, I am a homophobe. The fact is, I was born a homophobe, and therefore I can't help being a homophobe. It's genetic. As far back as I can remember, I have always had a repulsion towards sodomy, and especially to the molestation of boys, which has increased vastly ever since homosexuality was decriminalised in 1967. During the last decade or two, not being able to talk about this in public made me feel very depressed and even suicidal, as it has done for millions, and especially the victims of homosexual rape, who also had to repress their homophobic orientation. I did everything possible to cure myself of this dreadful phobia. Who, I wonder, would deliver me from this curse of being identified as a narrow-minded homophobic bigot? I had thought of attending equality and diversity training courses at Stonewall headquarters, kinky therapy at Dominic Davis's clinic in Soho to increase my homosexual potential. I had even contemplated electric shock treatment and exorcism from an Anglican priest. I've even confessed in front of whole church congregations. I had even considered, and this shows the level of my desperation, of joining the Conservative Party, which is full of homophiles and homosexuals, but to no avail. It was not until I went to a counsellor who explained the genetic roots of my homophobia, and that this was nothing which I ought to be ashamed of, that I decided to come out as an out and proud homophobe. The counsellor explained that I have a homophobic pedigree that goes back to the beginning of recorded history. You see, it is even recognised that the plant and animal kingdom are divided according to whether they have strong attractions or philia towards their own gender, and equal and opposite repulsions or phobias to those of a different gender. In antithesis to these, even though there are those who would dispute that we live in a binary world, there are those plants and animals that have a strong attractions or philias towards the opposite gender and equal and opposite repulsions to any of the same gender. All this has been scientifically researched. Check it out. The gays are constantly telling us that homophilia or homosexuality is natural and that it is found throughout the natural world, and how many species of animals are gay. Yet, we are never told how many animals have a natural revulsion of homosexuality, and yet they form the vast proportion of the animal kingdom. There are many theories of evolution, and I don't see why my theory should be any less credible than anyone else's. I believe the homophobia gene probably evolved from the common banana, which somehow evolved into the groper fish, and so on up the chain until the Homo erectus appeared nearly 2 million years ago. These then evolved into homophobes, probably around 40,000 years ago. They are the classic caveman who carried a big club and dragged women around by the hair. In time, the homophobe became more sophisticated and developed mostly in the Middle Eastern countries, resulting in polygamy, a practice still surviving from the Middle Ages. The genetic disposition spread to Western Europe. Henry VIII is a good example of this, and from whom the gene was passed on to my ancestors, and finally to my great-granddad, granddad, and finally my father, but by which time the gene became diluted to a monogamous one. But this could have something to do with the food chain and the water system being contaminated with chemicals. Now, these scientific categories were not properly understood until Darwin came up with his theory of evolution in the 19th century. It was not until 1864 that the homophile or homosexual was first identified as a distinct evolutionary group by the German Karl Heinrich Ulrich, who coined the words homosexual and heterosexual, whereas it took almost 100 years exactly from the homophobe to be identified as a distinct group by the American psychiatrist George Weinberg in 1965. Heterophobia was not officially recognized until 1990. Check it out. Therefore, my message to you is be happy. Do not be ashamed of the way God created you. We need to fight for our human rights. We are by far the greater part of the human race that demands recognition and police protection. This year in London, the 50th anniversary of the decriminalisation of homosexuality was celebrated with a spectacular gay pride parade attended by millions and costing millions of taxpayer money. Isn't it about time that homophobia was decriminalised and we had our own homophobia pride parade? Where is the equality, diversity, inclusion, tolerance and non-discrimination? It's time to stop being who someone else thinks you should be. Stop living by someone else's code. Stop trying to fit someone else's mold. It's time to be confident, passionate, creative, honest, true and free. It's time to say no to self-doubt, no to self-censorship. It's time to be the person you are in private, out in public. The world needs us, for we are the game changers, the boundary pushers. We challenge, pave the way, smash the norm and the politically correct that we see daily on the BBC. Liberate, because if we don't have game changers, how can we have progress? Sadly, many people feel the need to filter their words or hide who they are. But we say, be yourself, live freely and openly. Treat others with respect and tolerance and expect that same treatment yourself. Let's not change who we are. Let's not hide who we are. Otherwise, in a few decades, we shall all become emasculated, feminized, queer as coots, and the British race will die out. Some people are homophobes. Get over it.